Why is this 138 minutes long? Who allowed that? Okay, who's the real psychopath, Art the Clown or Damien Leone for making an over 2-hour-long slasher? Damien Leone went even further into nutso torture porn sadistic territory, giving gore hounds plenty to sink their teeth into. Clearly the man knows what his audience wants. In a sense, the 2-hour runtime was a tad much, but he delivers and knows how to make effective and malicious murder set pieces. Touching on supernatural overtones and ultra-violent slasher antics, stuffed to the seams. A splatter epic that is certainly on my short list of gnarliest films viewed at a Marcus theater. Legitimately gruesome and upsetting. Art the Clown is still stronger as a concept and a narrative basis, but Terrifier 2 is definitely more successful than the first film. Ambitious and weird. Between this and The Munsters, it's been a good month for movies that function primarily as Halloween fetish objects. Yo, the slasher genre is alive. Leone demonstrates a pretty obvious improvement over the first film at weaving his gruesomely juvenile jokes/gore and admirably low-rent aesthetic ugliness into an actual movie structure that feels like it's building/progressing beyond its clear goofy SFX demo reel origins and into something that at times has an actual charming, chintzy Halloween synth slasher bloodbath mood to it. I especially like the diversity and scale of the cheap, filthy carnivalesque sets and the ambitious inclusion of weird in-universe dreams/music. I don't like long horror films. I don't like clown horror films. I didn't like Terrifier. But goddamn if I didn't just have the best gore-filled, effed up, crowd groaning, gut churning, HFS they went there and more screening of this. It's been a while since a film shocked me in this way, but I was smiling like a weirdo the whole time. A true gore classic for the Halloween season. If there's one thing I find fascinating about Terrifier 2, it's not so much the gratuity but how audiences have received the movie. Do we ignore things like stale characters, bad performances, bloated runtimes and inane dialogue simply because a film is willing to push the boundaries of gore? I'm not so sure. Maybe undoubtedly Terrifier 2 reaches new heights and its senseless violence and the practical effects are sickeningly good. This was so much fun. Only minutes into the movie, I already couldn't stop smiling from Art's facial expressions alone. The kills are creative and really fucked up, the effects are great, and Art is hilarious. One part of the plot kind of threw me off, but I absolutely loved everything else about this movie. I can't wait to make my friends watch this with me. Love it or hate it, Terrifier 2 definitely pushes boundaries. There is plenty to admire here for the gore aficionados, but more isn't necessarily better. With the addition of a story that is far from good, anytime Art isn't on the screen it comes to a screeching halt. A few cuts and trims bringing it in at the 1 hour 30 meters mark would have made it less of a slog. Kudos to Damien Leone for the practical effects work. I went into this picture with great hopes and very big expectations, largely due to the positive critical reception and since the first installment was still vivid in my mind. Although none of the deaths topped the split scene, the most memorable and horrifying death in the horror genre, the film nevertheless manages to deliver effective gore and kills, some of which were so graphic I had to look away. In particular, I love the stab little pal scene. This is how I lose. Terrifier 2 is for perverts who like their horror to come from the back of a 80s video store. I am said pervert. I cannot believe I live at a time in which Art the Clown is running, tricycling, circles around goddamn Michael Myers. Art the Clown is basically if Mr. Bean had a breakdown. Art can be cruel, or I don't know why people expect art to make sense. They accept the fact that life doesn't make sense. David Lynch. Respect to the effects department. Look, I've been looking forward to this ever since it was announced. I wanted more Art the Clown and more gore. And I would have been happy if that's all Damien Leone had delivered. But this shit right here exceeded my expectations by goddamn miles. Leone knocked it so far out of the park that it's now in orbit. Oh, am I being hyperbolic in a review again? Who the fuck knows? What I do know, you're really weird. You know that? Terrifier 2 trades in the original's mean-spirited, semi-sexist torture porn for a strong female lead, a developed script, a little camp, and loads of delectably devilish humor. We have a wicked winner, y'all. Between Damien Leone's practical effects work, makeup, prosthetics, robotics, and Thornton's performance, the craftsmanship is through the roof, and the result is a highly entertaining nightmare from beginning to end. Just as the film entered its wrap-up, some overly ambitious elements came into play. It has its moments that I'm sure some will enjoy. However, who allowed this film to be 138 minutes long? The practical effects are just off the charts. These movies aren't for the squeamish, but if you like hardcore blood and gore, you get that in spades with Terrifier 2. We've even got some dick violence to offset the arguably sexist gaze of the first Terrifier film, though I like that film as well. Art the Clown is as menacing as ever, but his new little sidekick is a creepy and welcome addition to the mayhem. Few horror sequels have ever dared to be as audacious and idiosyncratic as this one. Long gone is the minimalism of the first film, supplanted by a visibly larger production budget, an uncommonly expansive runtime, and an elaborate, quasi-mythological survivor's narrative very purposefully designed to give the notoriously misogynist, even by slasher villain standards, Art the Clown is just desserts. This movie was gory awesomeness. Director Damien Leone didn't disappoint. This was gorier than Terrifier. The story though was much better and many developed characters. I was especially impressed by Lauren Lavier, who I was rooting for the whole time. David Howard Thornton didn't disappoint as Art the Clown. I also enjoyed Felissa Rose's small role. I enjoyed performance of Sarah Voigt as the mom and Amelia McLean as the pale girl. Also Casey Hartnett pulled off the goriest scene.